Okay. So the interactiveness always we can provide to our mobile application through several input field or edit fields. Okay, so that may be using the views like edit text, and also views like toggle button, and also radio buttons, and also spinner. Okay, there are multiple ways we can provide the interactiveness to the users, so that we can provide interactive forums to users, so we can gather the information from the users. Based on that, we process, and we also provide the information to the users based on the requirement, right? So the entire second unit is mainly focusable on how we can develop an interactiveness with respect to an applications. So, because whatever the application we are going to provide to the user community, of course, majorly we will gather the data from the users, or we will provide the data to the users. So, for that sake, of course, you must have a interactiveness forums that should be provided with our application, and also several UI related things, so that you can uh, even display the information. It may be anything like in WhatsApp, it will be anything like Facebook. All this application majorly working because of the interactiveness with the users, right? So for that thing we studied in the module 2, and also we come across how we can do user interface testings also. Uh, so that was with respect to this module 2, and module 3 is mainly so how there are a lot of bad long running tasks, and we are already know that Android application, all views or whatever the user interactiveness you are going to put it within a single application, everything will be running in a single thread. That thread we are going to call it as the main thread or a UI main thread, right? And also there is a problem that if any operation that is working, or if any activities that is working with respect to your main thread, if it takes more than 16 seconds, then it your mobile appear like an hang stage. Okay, appears like an hang stage. And suppose if it is taken more than 6 seconds to complete the task, then automatically you will get an error message from the Android Studio, that is application not responding. So the maximum time limit that a task can taken if it is running in the main thread is maximum 6 seconds, right? So but when we have a lot of operations that may take more than a 6 seconds, and according to the rules given by the Santa Studio, sorry, Android operating system, we cannot complete it within a second, 6 seconds. So maybe like gathering data from a content provider. That content provider may be located in different area. That may be in server, may be in different area, different location, right? So connecting to internet and connecting to the data provider and gathering the data and load the data into your screen, or something like downloading a file. For that also you have to connect to an internet, connect to a server, and you have to locate the file where this file is located in your server, and also download the file. And the size maybe more than 200 MB, 500 MB, 1000 MB. We don't know that, and we know we cannot complete the task within a 6 seconds also, right? So such a task we cannot put it in a main thread, since the rules given by Android operating system, it is not completed within a 6 second, and it may if it is more than 6 seconds, you may end with another is application not responding, right? So what can we do with respect to this part? We can move such a long running task into a background. Rather than running in the main thread, we will make running in a other thread, that is background thread. Okay, so that we will move the work into the background, and we may get even the progress also, what is happening with respect to the background operation. And also once the work is completed, we can get a notification that the job is completed like that. So all these things we have learned in module 3, right? How we can move the operation, long running operation, into background. For that we learn sync task, and also loader framework, and also services. So these things normally we will put it into background. And we also come across the broadcast receivers, because the because system is always ready to receive some sort of events, right? Maybe like charger connect to your mobile phone, or like earphone connected to your mobile phone, or network connected to your browser, or anything like that. Okay, it always need to listen all these things whenever the power goes below 15%. So you need to get a notification that you need to put a power charger so that you can work long for your mobile phone, right? All these things can be obtained, and also we will get the notification to our either Android operating system or to our app through broadcast receivers. And also we know how we can create a broadcast receivers and what are the advantages of broadcast receivers. So meanwhile, using broadcast receivers, we also come across what exactly notifications and how we can create a notification, and what are the important tasks we need to think with respect to the latest operating system. Because in the earlier versions we don't have a notification channel. Now we will have a notification channel. Then only it is possible to allocate the notification manager to channel that we come across. And also we come across alarm managers. What are the advantages of alarm managers? Why, where are all we use alarm managers, and so how we can create alarm manager, and how the broadcast receiver always be present, helping to alarm manager, so that even though it is a background task running, so how the receiver will get the notification, help us to display the notification to the users. That all we learned up to module 3, right? So the module 4 is mainly, it is based on how we can handle the data. Till now we know in the module 2 how we can gather the data, right, through users. And also in the module 3 how we can process the data we come across, right? The thing is, in this module we are going to learn so how we are going to store the gathered data in the mobile, maybe in a local disk, or maybe in a server, or maybe in a database. Okay, maybe in other mode of methods. Okay, so that's what we are going to learn in this module. This module is completely how we are going to handle the data, and how we are going to store the data, and how we are going to retrieve the data in different ways. It may be in the form of files, or it may be in the structured form, like we call it as a database, or it may be the content provider, or it may be some unstructured like NoSQL, it may be Firebase or something like that. That's what we are going to learn. So all of you familiar with first three modules, right? All of you familiar with first three modules?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So fine, we'll start with the data related operations from this module onward. So I'm going to share my screen. And my question is it helping you the doing hands-on projects in this class, or do I just continue with the slides only? You need the live.
Hands-on is needed, sir.
What?
We need hands-on, sir.
You need hands-on also.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Is it helping, right? Even though it is
Yes.
taking too much time, you are not getting bored, or it is not. You are thinking that why sir is doing so much of things. Not like that, right?
No, sir, it's helping out
No,
actually.
sir.
No, we work out. I do it on weekends, sir. That's why it helps out.
Okay, okay. Then I'm really thankful for that, because if I am go on doing hands-on, no, it will take some time. Okay, that's why I'm not simply wasting your time, but it will take some time. So no problem, right? If I do hands-on.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Yeah, thank you then. Okay. Uh, so we'll start with data storage today. So this complete model is based on how we are going to use the data provided by the users. So the way the user can provide the data can be uh, provided as provided through application using user interactive views, right? We already come across in the module 2. We know we can use the edit text field, also the things like spinners, even the pickers, calendar pickers, even like some dialog box to take an action, and also like some radio buttons. Many way we can gather the data from the users, and we know how we can do it by we already come across some hands-on with respect to that. We developed some similar like one e-commerce application to gather the data from the user. So now once you get the data, so how we are going to store the data, where you are going to store the data. So there is no, we have a multiple way we can store the data, right? One is if the application is completely private to you, then you don't need to save the data in the server, right? You are the only sole user who are using your mobile phone and the data is completely private to you. Then you can utilize your mobile phone storage space in order to store the data, and whenever you need, you can access it and you can process it. Likewise, if many people are trying to access your data, then of course, if you store it in your private space, it is not accessible to others, right? Then you will try to provide it there through server like technologies, right? It may be some cloud. You are going to access some cloud resources, and there you are going to store your data, and the data can be used by any persons. Or meanwhile, you can convert your mobile local stage devices as a shareable storage devices. It can be accessible through internet, so that that portion of data can be accessible by any of your group. Maybe we'll call it as a group members. Or you can utilize the Google Firebase, which is providing a services to develop and host and also process the data through application that is called Firebase. It is a Google service provider, so you can use that one also. The only thing is how you are going to store your data. That is, either you can store it as a file. You cannot say there is a structure in storing information in a file. You can go on entering anything, it is going to record and it is going to store in your mobile phone. Or you can do in a structured manner. Then if you are thinking in terms of structured manner, then of course you should store your data in a database format. You maybe you don't know database. If anybody is interested, you tell me in, out of this context. I will explain you what is exactly database and how you can use SQL in order to do programming databases, and also how you can use SQL to store the database and also process the database. If you are interested, it is out of context. It is not in your syllabus, because anyhow, if you go to interview, majority of questions, maybe 25 to 30% of questions are come from database itself. So, and as electronics students and electrical student, this is what the minimum programming tactics you have to learn. Anybody have an idea about what exactly database means? So, and SQL related things? Idea? Any idea?
They are used for
Yes,
storing
sir.
data.
A bare minimum idea.
Yeah, very good, very good. Of course, the only way is there are multiple way we can store the data, either through file also, like if you use Microsoft Word or a Notepad or a WordPad, you just go on entering data, right? And if you say that, of course, it is also storing in your local disk, or it may be in cloud also. The only way difference between the file and databases, here everything is a structured. Structured means, so we have some row or column or something like that. So we go on adding the values into the row. Okay, so normally we'll store the data in terms of table rather than unstructured manner. That's what the database means. For that, we need to learn one programming language called SQL. There are multiple DBMS are there. DBMS is nothing but it's a software. Okay, so DBMS in the sense, you may come across different examples like Oracle. You may heard about Oracle. That is on DBMS. You may heard about MySQL. That is on DBMS. You may heard about SQL Server. That is also a DBMS. You may have heard about even Microsoft Access. That itself a DBMS. And some of the lightweight DBMS also there in the market, like SQLite and also Pro Postgre SQL. Okay, these are all the good examples of DBMS. So using SQL, you are going to write a program such that whatever the data comes to your storage space, it is going to store in a structured manner. That is what SQL is going to do, and that is what DBMS is going to provide an interactiveness and software so that it can use to manage and manipulate the data. Okay. Now, before we starting to the DBMS, what I will do is I will consider next class, from next class onwards, with respect to structured data. Today we are going to show how we can store the data in our local phone. Okay, so that's what we are going to learn today. So as I already told that there are different way you can store the data, and also different space you are going to store the data. So normally it may use like Android file system in order to edit, read, write, or append the information into your append the information of your data, and you can store it to internal storage. Internal storage means the storage space that is available in your mobile phone. Okay, it is not the external storage. External storage means like a memory card or some USB you are going to insert into your mobile phone. If you store information in that particular part, which is not the actual part of your mobile phone, that thing we call it as an external storage. And the next thing is, suppose if you want to store your information in the form of structured data, then you are going to use database. And DBMS we are going to learn is SQLite in our class. Okay, SQLite is similar like a MySQL, Oracle, SQL Server, PostgreSQL, similar like that. The only advantages is this is a very light weight DBMS. Okay, you need not to bother about installing and also maintaining the DBMS. Automatically, it's inbuilt, that is available in your Android Studio. So majority, if your application is very simple, if you're working in Python or some frameworks like Django and all, you may come across this SQLite. It is a very light DBMS. The only thing is it is also like the storage space, similar like in file system. And there are other options also there, like content provider through cloud and all. Okay. So there are different way you can store the data, as I already told that. The first thing we are going to learn is shared preferences. So what exactly shared preferences? We have a separate unit for this shared preferences. I'm going to explain you today one hands-on example how we can utilize this shared preferences in order to store the data. Normally, shared preferences, the data should be stored in the form of key and value pairs. So we already come across the XML format as well as JSON format, right? So the how the data is actually stored, we have a key left side and we have a value right side, right? Similar, like even shared preferences is going to store the data in that format. And you can store the data in either internal storage or an external storage based on shared preferences. Normally, when you are storing your data in a shared preferences, the file name always represents like your package name. That is an uniqueness, right? That is what it comes with. So I will tell what are the advantages of using shared preferences. Where are all your mobile phones utilizing the shared preferences way of storing the data? It is when we are talking about shared preferences. Normally, we are not going to store a public data. Public data means it can be accessible by other applications also or other users also. Private data means it is sold to a particular app, and also it is sold to a particular mobile devices rather than it is available to other different mobile users or different apps. It is when you are want to store some information in a separate private file, then shared preferences is the best option. Today, the hands-on is based on shared preferences. And the next thing is you can store your private data, as already told that it is completely on the internal storage. That is, whatever the device memory that comes attached to your mobile phone, if you use that device memory and if you're going to store the information there, then this is through internal storage. Similar, like if you want to store the information into your memory card or USB, then it is an external storage, and also they expose these things databases. What exactly content providers? They normally like cloud storage devices, cloud storage devices. You have something like Google Drive, right? Google Drive. Similar, like if you want to store the information in a Google Drive or separate cloud databases, there are something like Amazon data services like AWS, or Google GCF like Google Cloud Foundations. Okay, if you use those type of things, that is, make use of internet in order to access and retrieve or append the data into your application, then these content providers comes into the action. So storing data behind Android, so of course you need an network connection, because the data you are going to process is maybe on some web, or maybe you have your own server that is located in a different location. Then you of course you need a connection. You want to do backup like WhatsApp backup, a Google backup, a synchronization of every data with respect to your Google. Of course, you want to store the data that should be in a cloud, right? Then the cloud backup is also one type of option. So next, another available is Firebase real-time database. This is the service provided by Google itself. It helps us to store and sync data with NoSQL. There is a one more type of storing a data that is called unstructured. Till now in database we come across structured, right? As I told that we have some structure, like whenever we say a relational database, we think database itself in the form of table. Whenever we have an object oriented database, we think the database in terms of object and behave properties and behavior. Similar, like that is completely structured. But if we don't have a structure of storing the data, simply go and store your data in the format of key and value like an XML or a JSON, then no SQL cloud databases will come. You may have heard about MongoDB, right? MongoDB. Have you heard about MongoDB? Yeah,
Yes,
so
sir.
that is purely NoSQL database. MongoDB is a purely NoSQL database. Now we have so much of DBMSs are coming in order to process this unstructured data. Some of good query languages are also there in order to process the cloud data like GraphQL. There are a lot of things are coming now. Everything is changing. So as a software engineer, what you have to do is you have to update yourself. That's what you have to do. So you have to know about the latest techniques available, latest technologies available, and so what is the usage, and where actually it is using, and also the thing is, so how many customers are there for that? Because if you have a large users or large traffic available for that particular technologies, means of course we cannot say it is going to be end within 2 or 3 years. Of course it may take up to 10 years to live, right? The technology will be helpful for you. So don't go and learn any technologies which don't have a huge user availability. If, because why I am teaching this subject, because still 80% of the mobile phones are based on Android operating system, and if you develop any application using Android operating system, of course it will be reached to 80% of the world population, right, who are using mobile phones. So that's why you are learning this Android. Otherwise there is no meaning of learning this technology itself, right, if it is an outdated thing. So of course, and since the Android operating system is the implementer of this or a developer of this Android operating system itself a Google, and this Android Studio and Android programming is also based on Google. Of course, they go on updating the studio rather than they won't make it as a outdated software. So what you are learning is, of course, it will be helpful. I cannot say it is going to be end within a 10 years. Okay, so up to the next good operating system that has to be appears in the world, up to that, I can say that the Google Android will be a leader in mobile operating systems. So there is no problem in this part. So you are in a right path learning Android programming. Still, you can get a good job if you learn perfectly this Android operating system, and also you can start developing an applications. There are numerous companies are there. They still provide the services to through only mobile. Okay, they are not providing services through a web or some other way. Okay, since we know that of course maximum peoples are accessing services through mobile only. They don't go to a browser and type some web address, and try to access the information there. So you may have come across. Nobody is using laptop in order to access Facebook, right? Like that. Majority of time, YouTube even accessible in mobile phone itself. And if you want to purchase anything through e-commerce, of course, Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, whatever it is, their sole way of accessing that is through mobile phone itself. So that's the main advantages. So files. Normally, whenever you referring Android file system, and we know that Android is based on purely Linux kernel, right? So I already explained you. So this operating system is also based on Linux kernel, like Linux operating system like Ubuntu, Fedora, similar like that. Even Android is also based on Linux kernel. And whenever you have a Linux kernel mesh, the way of handling file is completely similar like the way you are handling in your C programming in your Linux or Windows. However, you have written in our code to read the information from a file, write the information into a file or append the information into a file. The same way we are going to work in even Android file system also. The only thing is, instead of C programming, here we are using Java programming. So if you know how to work with the file system in Java, then the same way you are going to apply it in Android operating system also. So in order to work with a file system, you can store into a public directories, external storage like a memory card. It can be accessible by numerous users. I cannot say it is private to me. And of course, you cannot share your internal storage, right? So you can even create your private directories just for your app. Only way is the method of reading, writing, or appending or deleting any files in Android file system is similar like how you have handled or how you have worked in Linux operating system. The thing is, Java is also provide the file handling operations through a class called java.io. So through that, you are going to work entirely with respect to Android file system. So first, we will learn about what exactly internal storage. Of course, when you switch on your mobile phone, the operating system start booting by gathering the files that are stored in your internal storage itself. Okay. Once it is get the data, of course, this internal storage is always available in your mobile phone. Uh, Normally, the complete thing, you just go and check your how exactly your file system is present in your Android operating system, and also check how the file system is present in Fedora, or how the file system is present in Ubuntu or Red Hat. Here, the way of storing file and in Fedora and Ubuntu, it is completely same. Okay. So if you store your any file in internal storage, only your app can access the files unless explicitly. That what I have said, right? Suppose if you wish to share your information to somebody else, then what you are going to do? You will share that file and you will make it as a writable. Then only see similar like in Google Drive video I am sharing, right? If I give you a permission to read or write, then only.
Sir, your mic is muted.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, whenever you want to save your user's file in a shared storage, of course, user requires through a app. It should be in a public directory rather than a private directory, and it should be shareable, and you have to provide the access permission to them. Then only it is possible to, you want to share your information. And these are all you already worked in your laptop, whatever it is. So the same way you are going to apply the uh, permissions. So now, what are the methods we are going to use in order to read or in order to create a file in your internal storage or in order to write the information into your internal storage? And also, the file maybe you can create it as, sir, is it easiest to use? Xcode build iPhone apps. If we learn Android Studio, will it be similar at least? Uh, See, Manoj. Uh, Till now, yes, I have observed. Suppose if you want to build any application that should be compatible in both operating system, maybe in like iOS as well as Android, Flutter is doing good. Other than Flutter, nobody is doing better things. Suppose if you want to build native iPhone apps, then Swift is the present better solution, as I know that. Swift is the best solution. So suppose if you want to work in a Flutter, of course you have to learn one more programming language called Dart. Okay, Dart, D-A-R-T. So till now, the cross application builder platform that is good, and I cannot say maximum peoples are using today. Compatible in both operating system is Flutter, the only tool you can use. Now for native iPhone app, better you just go with Swift programming. Got it, Manoj? Okay, okay, thank you. Yeah, there are two ways you can store your information. One is a permanent storage thing. That is, once you store, if you even switch off your mobile phone also, and if you restart your mobile phone, still you can get access the stored information through your app. Yeah, Swift itself a programming language, Manoj. Swift itself a programming language. Similar like C and C++. You come across C++, right? C++. Similar like it looks very similar to C++, Swift. Okay, fine. So then there's one more way you can create or store the information, that is temporary. And normally temporary means it's in a cache. So you cannot think a temporary file more than 1 MB. Okay, you cannot think like that. So suppose you just want to access the information till until you want to close your application. Okay, and this information has to be stored until you want to close that information. Then you think in terms of temporary storage. Otherwise it should be available every time, then you think in terms of permanent storage. But whenever you're thinking with respect to temporary storage, be careful that your file should not exceed more than 1 MB, because you don't have much cache memory available in your mobile phones, and every app should have a permission to read and write that particular file. Okay, so in order to create a new file, the thing is you have to create a object to a file class. You have to create a object to a file class, and this file class comes through a package called java.io. Okay, so whatever the file related operations are there, whether it may be reading or creating a file, whether it may be writing into a files, or whether it may be a stream, okay, file stream operations, or whether it may be like appending information to the existing file or deleting file, whatever it is, it all present in a standard Java package called java.io. And whenever you want to create a new file name, of course, the thing is you have to create an object to a file class, and two parameters you have to pass for that constructor. One is the file directory you want to get it. Whenever you are using get file directory, if you want to store your information into permanent storage area, and you know what exactly context is. and the name of a file you are going to. So in order to get the file details from your permanent storage area, then use this method, get files direct. Okay. So the name, whatever the name of the file is there, you just go and gather in this particular directory in your internal storage area. That's what this particular line will do. So what happened with respect to external storage? So whenever you want to handle with external storage, the one and the main mandatory task is first you have to set the user permission in Android.manifest file. So you want to set the user permission in Android manifest file. Just go to Android manifest.xml. There, set the user permission for writing into the external storage and reading into the external storage. First, you have to do it, and then only it will recognize whether you have mounted a device or not. So because external is completely outside of your storage, mobile phone, right? If you mount your memory card or a USB, whatever it is, first we need to know whether the device is mounted or not. How we are going to know whether it is mounted or not? We want to get a state of that. Through where you are going to get a state? There is a method called get external storage state. Using this method, we are going to know whether the particular external storage thing is actually mounted in your mobile phone or not. Mounted means you have attached into your mobile phone or not. So it is always written a Boolean value, that is true or false. If it is mounted, it returns true, otherwise it will return false. So this is mandatory, that is before accessing any files or data, before reading any data in your external storage devices, first we must set the permission in Android manifest. That is like this. Two permission you have to set. One is write external storage, read external storage. Next thing what you have to do is you have to check whether the device is mounted into your system or not. How you are going to check? You have a method called is external storage writable. So using that method, you want to get a state, that is get external storage state. It will return either true or false. If it is true, of course, then media is mounted. If it is false, of course it is not. Okay. This is mandatory for working with external storage. So there are external public directories, like suppose you want to set some alarms. Alarms means I already told you, don't think in terms of clock. Okay, think in terms of activities, some time setting activities. Okay, a directory with ringtones. You can have a separate audio directories for audio files, video files, or something like. You may have checked in your mobile phone. That is, you have something called separate folders for images, separate folders for video, separate folder for music, similar like, right? These are all some constants available in our Android programming. That is directory alarms, directory ringtones, directory documents, directory downloads. Okay. So if you just utilize this constants, directly our getting file directory is completely, that is download directory. If we are using directory documents, then our location is of accessing that file is completely directory, the document directory. So, and till now we know how we can use in order to check whether the device is mounted or not, and also how to set the user permission in manifest. Next thing is I want to get the path of that particular directory. How we can do it? You have a method called get external storage public directory. So if you know exactly which things you are going to do, as I already told that there are some constants already given to the external storage, like all pictures in a separate directory, all downloaded things are in a separate directory, or documents are in separate directory. Just specify this constant. Okay, just specify this constant into this method. The only parameter you are going to pass for the method get external storage public directory is the location. Location is not directly you are specifying, because we don't know whether it may be in which directory it is, right? So for that case, for addressing the directory information in external storage, we always have a constants, already given constants, that is a parameter of this environment variable, sorry, environment class. So you just specify. Suppose if I specify directory underscore documents, and my location is mainly the document location. Okay, so here also first in the internal storage case, what we have done directly, we are trying to access the file using get file as method, right? Here we are not doing like that. First we are going to get the file, the similar in internal storage also. Here also we are doing the same thing. Two parameters we are passing here. The first parameter is the path, where exactly the location of your file is present, and the next thing is name of a file, name of a file. So the path, the only difference is getting a path. So in case of internal storage, a get files des is more than enough to get the exact location, but it is not possible in the external storage. There, in this method, you have to specify the constant names that you need to know. There are you can have other methods to know how much total space available in your internal storage, and also how much free space is available in your interspace. And always try to put it within an exception, because you don't know when you are working in your system, there may be a chances that your space may out of spaces, right? Your you may have a you don't may have a free spaces available in your application. While in the center of running your applications, maybe you may face this type of problems, right? If you are not specified within the exception, then your system again, it may be in a hang state or in application not responding state. To avoid such a situation, always work all file related operation in a exceptions. Okay, suppose if you end with any of this problem, you just throw and catch the exception, it may come out of that problems. You can delete the files which are no longer read. In external, you just use a method called delete. In internal, you have to use a method called delete file, and you have to pass a file name. Okay. So the only thing is, file name is already available here in the object in external, but in internal, what is the main thing is, you have to use the delete file along with the context, not with respect to a file name. That you have to be aware of. So fine, these are the things. Next thing is shared preferences and SQLite databases. Anyhow, we have a separate unit for SQLite database shared preferences. I'll go on explaining the same thing. Okay. Now other operations, you can use Firebase to store and share data. I already told that, and we have a separate unit for the separate chapter for this Firebase also. The only thing is, it is a cloud database. Firebase is nothing but it's a cloud database. You can go and store your data in a cloud. You need not to bother how many users is going to use my applications. The load sharing is awesome in Firebase, and that too for low price. Okay. So for a initial startup things, the best way of storing your data and working with your data is Firebase cloud database till now. Instead of starting your own database, and if you find the location to store that, and so that you may connect your application to a server, for a startup apps, and you want to project your application to the user community, that too in large number, the best and best method of storing your data is through Firebase. And just it is an Google service providing software. It will help us to, it will do a lot of things, not only cloud database, even it will do load balancing, it will do even fast, what we say that the performance increases of your applications, a lot of things it will do. Okay, so whenever user go on working with respect, it the synchronization also taken care by the Firebase itself. So as I suppose, if you want to bring your application into the public, and if you are targeting for a good number of users, then my first option is try to work in Firebase rather than you have a separate hosting of your databases. So when the user starts growing, right, then you think as a separate database. Initially, you may up to 1 million users, Firebase is the best option, as my knowledge. So this is Firebase related. Is normally we have a data, and multiple apps and multiple users can share the data. Normally, these databases are hosted in CloudMess, located somewhere in some different locations, and of course, the services is provided through internet. That's what nothing but cloud. And I already told that it is unstructured, purely unstructured. You are not thinking in terms of structured thing. Here, for that case, we are using NoSQL. Okay, whenever we are working with Firebase, our programming thing is NoSQL, which is very similar like JSON or XML coding. Like we are always trying to store our information in terms of key and value pairs. So whenever, every time when user, at least suppose if I am using Facebook and if I uploaded any images, in the real time, it go on synchronize your data. If I am using WhatsApp, similar like application, if I have developed and my backend is completely a Firebase, think just one user, if I do modification to is like creating a message or sending a message or sending images, automatically it will sync with respect to your database. That's what, everything is real time here. I already told you, if your target is less than 1 million and you want to bring into a public and you want to publish your app, the best way of handling data and sharing data is through Firebase. So normally we have cloud database for backup and all. Okay, this is with respect to storing data. Now what we do, so we are going to learn one by one now. So how we can use shared preferences in order to store the data. Next, how we can use SQLite database to store the data, and how we can use Firebase to store the data, and how we can use content provider to store the data. So one by one we are going to learn. So today I am going to explain you the advantages of shared preferences and one hands-on example with respect to shared preferences. Fine. Already told that if you have something, the private data, and you don't want to share with public like other apps or other users, and that data to be very limited, then that is a primitive data. If you have a primitive data, then the best way of storing the information, that too in your internal storage area, is using shared preferences. Okay, so you think in terms of preferences here, you're not thinking in terms of views here. Okay, to in order to work with respect to data. So what exactly shared preferences is? So if you have a small amount of primitive data, and if you want to do read and write operation of this particular primitive data, and you want to store that information in terms of key or value pairs in a file, that too in your storage devices. Whenever I say storage devices, think in terms of your internal storage devices. That is what shared preferences means. Okay, so you can do any type of operation. I can do write of small amount of information into your file. That is, I'm telling you again, it is completely a private file. It is not publicly available to others. It is purely to your own app, only single app. I'm speaking with respect to single app. Okay, and so in order to work with respect to this type of read and write operation, you must utilize a library, shared preference libraries. Libraries, how it is available to you in the form of APIs, that is application programming interfaces, right? We are going to use some of the APIs of this shared preferences library. Library, I can say class. Okay, in Java normally we call it as a class. Okay, so using this shared preferences class, we have a separate APIs for reading the file information, or writing into the file information, or managing the data method, maybe appending or deleting the thing, or clearing the information that is present in our file. All these things we can do it utilizing the APIs that are available in the shared preference class. APIs means we have something called read, we have something called write, we have something called append, we have something called clear or delete. All these are, we'll call it as APIs. APIs is nothing, think in terms of methods. Okay, so, and one more thing I want to bring it here. Whenever you are storing data or handling data, now you have to think in terms of activity life cycles. Can you tell me what are the activity methods available in activity life cycle? We studied in the module 1. So suppose we upload an app on Play Store. Does Google take care of the security preferences for our app? Should we Yeah, both the cases are true, Manoj. Both the cases are true. Even Google, so that's why you are paying money to Google in order to publish your app in your Play Store. Okay, what it will do is it will check each and everything before publishing the Play Store. It will check security flaws. Okay, it is also check compatibility with different because you may have created an application, but the same app is not shared with each and every devices. What Google Play Store will do is it will create a separate instances for based on device oriented, based on what we say that orientations, based on device sizes, and also based on other things like what we say different operating system versions. So all these things are taken care, but we cannot ensure that whatever the security preferences given by Google Play Store, that is enough. Okay, so we have a separate chapter in this subject, how we can give a different security preferences to our app. Got it, Manoj? We will learn how we can provide the best security to our app. We have a separate chapter for that. One class is mainly for security preferences. Okay, so now can you tell me what are the methods available in activity life cycles, because that is very important, right? When the app starts, it will created in separate method. When app is running, it is available in separate method. When app is not doing anything,
Sir, your mic is not working again.
now am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Oh, fine. Yeah, on create, on start, on destroy, on pause. Very good, very good. Still, we have some two more uh, methods are available in activity lifecycle. Can you name those? So on create means Android operating system will look for this method to in order to create your activity. On start means it's go on starting your activities. On desktop means when you completely come out of your application, and if you remove from if then it is completely removed from even your cache, then the method is going to be called as on desktop. On process, simply whenever you just go back or whenever you are in an idle position, then this method is going to call. Yes, on resume. Very good. On resume. When after this on start, so when you are working in your application, of course, the method is on resume. So, and we have something called on restart that always comes whenever in on pause. If you go back, you just go to on restart, then it will start from on start, right? That's what on restart will do. So these are the life cycles. And whenever you want to do storing of data, you have to be write your methods, whether it may be shared preference or any SQL or whatever it is, always through what uh, uh, these activity lifecycle methods only. You have to write those implementation in these lifecycle methods, and the two methods are very important here. One is on pause. Till on pause, you are going to modify the data, right? So in on pause, we are going to save all the data, whatever it is modified. So in on restart or on resume, we are going to retrieve the data, whatever you modified in on pause state. That is what we are going to do in shared preferences. So two things are very important. In order to save the data, do it in on pause method in your activity lifecycle. In order to restore the data, you can make it in onCreate also. The best way is, suppose if you are not reopening or restarting your application, then better you put it in a onResume, suppose like a back option. OnCreate, what happens if you completely destroy your app from even cache also, if you start it, then you put the storing of data in OnCreate. But when we are working, the app is still present in the memory, and you are in a on pause state. Suppose if you go to other activity and you have pressed the back uh, button, then directly the first method is not going to call as OnCreate, right? It is on restart, then you will come to on start or on resume, right? That's why better to put your data in on resume rather than in a on create. If you think that I'm completely removing my application using on destroy, and I want to again restart the application from scratch, then you put the data, get the data in a on create class. Got it? Why I'm telling this thing? Of course, the only way you can store the data is in on pause method of your activity life cycle. So you can use restoring your data in onCreate or onResume. The advantages of using onResume is, suppose if still your app is running in a background, and if you press your back button, if you want to come to your application, then onCreate is not going to call. The method is going to call as onStart, right? So that's why put your data in onResume. That is the best way. Suppose if you completely destroy your application and if you want to reopen your application from the scratch, then you put the data, restore the data in onCreate. This is not a best option as I remember. Okay. So whenever you are working with the shared preferences, think in terms of small number of key and value pairs. You have a string, you have a floating values, you have a integer values. You want to store in respect to. So where exactly this shared preferences is advantageous? See, assume I have a mobile phone, right? I have a mobile phone. Okay, I'm going to write this. Simply, I'm executing this. Okay, assume I have a mobile phone and I want to set some ringtone now. Okay, I want to set some ringtone, or I will increase my. Okay, so the application is running. I want to increase some volume. Okay, I'm go on increasing. See, even though my volume is not in a foreground, so whatever the volume I have increased here, the same will be available next time also, right? When I'm start either decreasing, the level of volume is always in the same level, right? How the system is saving this in this state? Okay, suppose if I change my ringtone, so how system will remember that the ringtone is changed? Okay, next time also the same ringtone is coming, even though that ringtone is not actually running in the foreground. Okay, you think that you have changed your display. Okay, you have changed your brightness and also you may have changed your display. So still that the same thing is retained, right? So how it is possible? These are the best way you can save your instances stated through shared preferences, or something like if you are working in some forum. Okay, assume uh, I have a Google. Okay, I have a Google. So what I do is I'm going to type some keyword here. Okay. Okay. Now I am saving the state here. Now it will. I'm going to, for example, handwrite. Okay. I have typed the keyword here, handwrite. Okay. So what I do is I'll go to images. Okay. I just okay, fine. Click on this image. Okay, now what I do is my application is completely whatever the previous activity is there completely replaced by another activity, right? We have one different activity. Now I'll go back. How still we have this Android present here? It should be removed, right? Why this information is still stored in there? See, if I go here also, still Android is there. How it is possible? How the system will remember that I have typed Android even though I am present in another activity? So there comes your shared preferences. This type of information you want to store in your local devices that is private to your app, only this respect to this Chrome app, okay? Then you can store those type of information in shared preferences. Suppose other application, like suppose if I am filling some form, okay, like a I want to register to some application, maybe like Facebook or maybe like Flipkart, okay, it will have a several fields in order to enter the information, right? So if I go and enter the information in each and every field, suppose some problem happen, my automatically my application closed, think that automatically it will close. If I again open that application, if the data is not saved in that field, what we have to do, see this close app, right? I will close this, it will open, still Android is coming. See, the completely the app is destroyed and is restarting again, still Android is present. How it is possible? Like that in your Flipkart also, if you enter some data but accidentally the application closed, when you open that, still the whatever the field the information you have entered into that field, still the data is retained. How it is possible? So that is possible because of this shared preferences, okay? And these type of values like some strings, some integer values, something like that, if you want to store that type in your local that is private to that particular application, then the best way of storing and handling data is through shared preferences. You got it? We are using this shared preferences, okay? So the data is completely private to a particular application, whether it may be a browser, whether it may be a Flipkart, whether it may be any other application, okay, whether it may be your own app, okay. If you have entered so whatever the modified data you have entered into a particular field, the data always retained, even your application destroyed, even your application closed, okay, or if it is in a background process rather than in a foreground process, okay. So the differences is uh, whenever you are working under different user sessions, if automatically if app is killed and restarted, the device is going to reboot it, then the whatever the recent data you have entered, it is going to be present in your shared preferences. So the same thing is not provided with respect to saved instances, okay. And different across sessions the data should be remembered. So that's why I told you, you must specify where you want to recall the data and where you want to save the data. That is only in terms of activity lifecycle. So these are the major differences with respect to shared preferences and saved instance data. So how we can create a shared preferences? So for creating a shared preferences, you must use a class called shared preferences class, and you want to create an object to that class, and you are going to call different APIs in order to work with the read and write operations of that file, okay. The thing is, whenever you want to create a shared preferences, the object must be created to a class called shared preferences, and you are going to call a method called get shared preferences, where you are going to pass two parameters into this method. One is the name of a file, normally when you are working with respect to shared preferences, the file name resembles to your package name because it is a private to your application, right? So package name, you are all aware how we can give the package name, that is com dot example dot or com dot info dot application name, right? Similar, like the file name will also resembles. And the next thing is, you want to set what mode you are going to use, whether you want to store share this file with other apps also, other users also, then it is mode is public. If it is purely for strong security, is try to make it as a mode underscore private, okay. The shared mode always should be a private. It is not a mandatory, you can make it as a public also, but the thing is, for a better security purpose, you make it as a private. So this is how you can create a file. I already told that the file name resembles to a package name. See, com.example.100, some similar like that. Okay, and you must create an object to what shared file preferences. You must create a object to what shared preferences. So this is an object to a shared preferences, and two parameters you are going to pass to this method, that is get shared preferences. One is a name of a file, normally a package name, and the mode of sharing your information. It may be private, it may be public, or it may be other things. Okay. And once you created the file, then you must have an editor, right? Like Microsoft Word or a Notepad or similar like that. I must have an editor so that I can write the data into my file, or read the data from the file. For that case, we are going to create an object for this class, that is shared preference.editor interface class. Okay. So we will have an object for this thing, and through this editor we are going to call the APIs like read, write, or append, something like that. So for writing the data into the file, we are going to use method called put method, and for reading the information we are going to use method called take method, and for completing, means once you done completion of reading and writing, and if you want to save the information permanently, then we are going to use a method called apply. So apply is asynchronous. Why? Base, if you have a parallel writing things also, it will do save safely. There is one more method is there in order to save your information into permanently into your file, that is called commit. But nowadays nobody is using commit because it is completely synchronous. So to avoid that thing, we are not using commit. So just think only try to use apply method. This is the complete way you can write a program so that you can save your information into the file. So you know how to create a shared preferences file name, right? So using that file name, you open that file using a separate editor, that is shared preference.editor. So you have created an object. Now using that editor, you are going to use two method. One is for directly put string, use put. Okay, if you want to put integer related data, use put int. If you want to put boolean data, use put boolean. If you want to write floating data, put float. Okay, so two things you want to pass for this method. One is the key. This is nothing but key, and this is nothing but value. I already told that shared preference files are the way you can store your data in the form of key and value. So whenever you want to store any information, it is always associated with a key. It is like a dictionary. Okay, so we have a key and we have a values. We have a key and we have a values. And once you write all the information into your file, the last method you are going to call to your editor is what? Apply. So there is one more method you can use commit also, but if you have a synchronous nature, then use commit. Otherwise, normally when you are working your mobile application, suppose your mode is public, then of course asynchronous way is there, right? Better you use apply. So next, this is where we are actually saving our data in a on-pause activity lifecycle, right? In on-pause activity. Suppose you want to read the data from the existing file, then we are going to write the information in a on-create. So in order to read the data, as I already told that, so the format is get hint. So the method we are going to use is get. Okay, do remember the method we are going to use get. If I am using string, get string. If I am using boolean, get boolean. If I am using integer, get int. If I am using float, get float. That you need to remember. Again, two things we are going to call here. One is key, another one is default value. It is not the value you must aware of. Okay, it is just a default value. You can put anything that will be appear, because whenever you first open your application, there is no information is saved in your file, right? It is completely empty. The file is completely empty. Then what you want to display? So then you are going to display some default values. It may be 0 or 1 or nothing, no text. Okay, this is what here. Whenever you are writing get int first time in your on create method or on resume method, so of course the whatever the key you have given, the same thing you have to give here, and the only thing here you have to represent is it is a default value. It is not the actual value which is saved in your file, because you are not aware of that actual value. Okay, anybody any time your app maybe modify the actual value, right? So that's why it is not at all possible to remember. What we have to do is we will put some default value here. So that's the way. So only thing is the API you are going to use to write the data is put. The API you are going to read the data is get. And how you can create an object to shared preferences. Shared preferences, create an object and use a method called get shared preferences. Pass two parameters. One is a file name, another one is the mode of operation, that is sharing the information. File name non resembles package name, that you must aware of. And in order to write the information, you must need an editor. How to create an editor? We have an interfaces called shared preference.editor. Create an object for that. Okay. So then you are going to call the API called put. Once you've done everything, the completion of work, then think you are going to use what and method called apply for permanent saving of your information. Okay, that's what you have to do. So you don't need any editor in order to read the information. That's why I'm not using any editor in saved instance while reading the information. Okay, and if you want to clear the information, of course, open your editor and use some method called clear. Okay. So, and one more thing, when you are apply and clear using at the same time, is better use clear after apply. Sorry, before apply. Okay. So apply is the permanent way you can use. If you apply it, then if you use clear, then there is nothing is happened because it will retains the old data again. So this is how you can do it. First, you have to call the clear before. If you wish your data should be nothing you want to specify in your saved file, then you just use clear, and that too before apply. Suppose some modification has happens. Okay, always we don't have a permanent data that it should be stored, right? The data always changing. Whenever I'm gone modifying the field, of course the data is going on changing, right? So then how we can do know that the data has changed? Then we have something called on shared preference change listener interface. Call that interface and override some method, so that we will come to know that what method we have to override. That is a register on shared preference change listener method you have to override. I'm going to show you a good example regarding this. You will understand how we can utilize all these things. So, and I already told that best way to register this interfaces is in on resume and on class. Don't try to use in on create, because every time we are not going to destroy our app, right? So that's all with respect to shared references. Now we are going to work with one application. Well, now we can use some shared references. So I'll create separate application, new project, empty activity. I'll call it as my shared preference application. Okay, so my shared preference application. I'm going to finish it. Everything is in default. So I'll delete the previous one. I'll terminate it. Oh, I'm getting a lot of errors. So first I'll clear the state. Whether I'll go to AVD manager, just wipe out data completely. And because I'm getting a lot of ANR error, right? So avoid that, I just made it like this. So okay, fine. Now what I do is I'm creating some different forum, and I want to retain that data even if I destroy the application. Like that, I'm going to work now. Okay. So what I do is just go to your layout, create 2 or 3 fields. We already have something. Just name it here. Name some thing here. Okay, something like user information. User information. Just enter and change some other attributes like size and color better. Let's just try to use this particular color. It looks good to me. Okay, and change some constraints related options. Still, I need some more. Okay, I'll just go with 34 SP. Fine, user information. So better I'll with constraint match, and I don't want that big be appeared here. Okay, this is with respect to this. Okay, now I will utilize some good feeds like okay. This is with respect to user name. Okay, I'm going to call it as user name. So do some modification with other attributes like 20 bold center and change to some good color like this. Okay, okay, and set some constraint. Set some constraints. Okay, I may have after 32 here also 32. Okay, good, fine. Next thing is I'm going to use one more text view for storing age information. One is with respect to string I am doing, one is with respect to integer I am doing to showcase you how you can use the shared preferences. As I told that this one I am going to make it as age. So do some modification. Again, the color I'm going to use it here, some good color, bold and 24 SP. Okay, maybe in center justify. Okay, do something. This one is also 24 SP. It looks good. 24 SP. So set the constraint with respect to this text field. Two things are necessary. One is upper and the left side. Okay, put 32 dp displacement. Fine. Now I have two feeds. Okay, if you need some more this user information in rather than move it into 32. Good. Okay. Now I am going to use some edit text. So here what I am going to retain my information. Okay. So just remove name here. Just remove name. Okay. Text nothing. Simply. Int if you need simply write enter your name. Not mandatory. Not mandatory. Okay, so make it bold and appears in a good deep SP. Okay, so I normally and first you set the even constraint also. The left side should be always. I'm setting this constraint with respect to text field username. I'll give the displacement 16, and it should be 0. And since it is going outside of that constraint, so better you put some match constraint and here you put some 8 or 16 and use match constraint. Okay, that's fine. So it still remains within the boundary now. Same thing you do with respect to age also. Okay, so here what I do is I'm changing the text. Text nothing. Okay, and if you need you can type your age. Fine, this is an int, that's all. Okay, make it bold, and if you need some more sizes you can do it. Fine. So now I just for this purpose what I do is I'll just need an only numerical keyword. I don't need this thing. Better I'll set with number. Okay, numerical keyboard and set the constraints now. Constraint is with respect to age text field. Do some modification. Give some heat or something like that. 16. Okay, 8 or 16. Fine. Here it is 0 only. Here I'm going to give 16. You go with 32 also. That's good. Fine with respect to this. Better you go with constraint, match constraints. That's fine. That's fine with respect to both the field. I think the hint is missed here. What this my hint is, enter your name, right? Okay, that's all. That's all with. If you need, you can put some button also, just to know about whether if I move to some other activity, submit. I'll just call it as submit. It is not mandatory for our example. Just to see to move to other activity, so that if I come back, the data has to be read, right? For that purpose, I'm doing this. Okay, fine. Set the constraints. The constraint should be with respect to this. Okay, for age also the constraint, it should not be like for this, it should be okay. 1 minute, 1 minute. Just the upper constraint is wrong, completely wrong. I'll just remove it, and again I'll, because if name is longer, then there may be some overlapping will happen, right? Better you just fix with this 32. Fine. So this button constraint is given. Make it 32. Make it 32. Make it 32. And better give width completely match constraints. Fine. Now simply I'll write code to go to other activity, simply just to start with other activity. There is no much programming with respect to button, simply to move to other activity. That's what I'm going to do here. Okay. For that, on click method I'm going to use. Again submit only I'm going to use. Fine. So you know how to create this method. Alt enter. Just go to create method. We have, for that case what I do is I'll create one more activity, simply an empty activity. I'll call it as main activity 2 only. So now I have something, 2 activities. Just go to this method. You know how to create the intents. Intent. Call it as hi equals to new intent. So 2 things you have to pass. One is what? This particular context. That is, this means I am in main activity, right? And the next thing is the class, that is another activity where you have to move to, that is main activity dot class. Fine. So, and I don't want to pass any data, simply I'm going to start the activity. You know how to start the activity. Start activity and pass that intent. What is my intent is hi. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. If I click that button, of course it will move to the other activity. So if you wish, you can change the color of the other activity, so you can know that I'm in that activity. So what I do, I'll just change the background of this. So your wish, whatever the color you want to like to post. Okay, simply this color. And if you wish to change even this color also, you just go and change the design of this color. These are not programming, it's just simply so UI related things what I'm doing. This color is good. Fine. It looks good. Okay. You can add even images also. That's all depends on you. Okay. Now that's all with respect to basic things. Now we start creating shared preferences thing. Okay. So go to what main activity, and I already told that. So whatever the modification you want to do, you do it in 2 more life cycle, right? If you want to save information, do it in where? On pause. So create on pause. If you want to do retrieve the data, maybe you can do it in on create also, but just doing in on resume. Use on resume. Okay, so 2 methods I need. Here I am going to write the data. Here I am going to what? Read the data, and I have 2 edit box, right? So whatever the data that is entered into edit text, that I have to read it. So for that I am going to create the objects. So what are the names I'm going to give is ed1 for edit box 1, that is ed2 for edit box 2. Fine, and you can get the idea of that. That is ed1 equals to what? Find view by id. So r dot id dot. So what is the first thing? First text fields ID, that is edit text person's name, right? Just go and use that edit text person name. This is the first edit box ID. Do the same thing with respect to second edit box. Ed equals to find view by ID. Okay, r dot id dot. So the second thing is find text person name. Okay, fine. Now that thing is good. So now what I have to do is, now I want to create a shared file and I want to save the information in the shared file. So in order to save, we know that we have to go to what? On pause method. Just I want to override this on pause. Okay, keep it like that. Now I am going to create a file called shared preference object to a shared preference class. So that is shared preference. Create any object. I am going to call it as SD. Then the method we are going to use for shared preferences is what? Get shared preference, right? Get shared preference. And two parameters you have to pass. First thing is what? File name. First thing is what? File name. I'm not going to give any package name. Normally the default way of giving is a package name. I'm not going to give. I'll just give my file name. It is also not a problem. Okay, my file name is my file name. Okay, and so the mode is, second thing you have to pass is mode. We have different modes: append mode, private mode, public mode. For security reasons, what we are doing is we are going to use private mode. So this is how I can create a shared file. Once I create the shared file, I need an editor, right? How can I open the editor? That is shared preferences dot editor. So create an object for this. I'm going to call it as my editor. My edit. The object is my edit. Then whatever the file you have created, that is SD, right? SD dot, you have to call edit function. Fine. Now you go and put the information into your file. So how to put the information? Two way I'm putting, right? One is completely string, another one is integer. So try to put it. So where I'm the first method I'm going to call is what is my editor name? That is my edit, right? My edit. So in order to put the string, you just use put string method. In order to put integer, you have to use put integer method. And two parameters I have to pass for these strings. One is key. This thing I'm going to use is as name. My key, first key is name, and the value I'm going to take, right? So value I'm getting through this first edit text box. So you know how to get that information. That is ed1 dot get text. Okay, and it is completely in string I'm getting, so no problem with that. So this solves everything. So next thing also I'm writing, that is my rate. Here, as I already told that I'm getting numerical values, right? I cannot use it as string. So what I do is I will use put int, and I'm going to call it as key age. Fine. Now, so whatever the data I'm getting through second edit text box, so that's why ed2, of course, get text. There is no ed2, so I need get text, right? Get text. That too, to string. Okay, but the problem is there's no problem here. But the thing is, I am going to use integer, right? Integer. It's a completely numerical. So what I have to put is I have to parse the result into. So now, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So numerous phone calls. I'm using Bluetooth earphone, so that's why it is connected to my mobile phone also. Here also, that's why I'm facing some problem. Okay, now just switch off my Bluetooth with respect to mobile phone. Okay, I don't think I will face a problem again. So okay, I'm going to share this. Fine. Since I have to convert my string into integer, right? So for that purpose, I'm going to use some method called integer.parseInt. It is integer dot parse int and pass this information ed2. Okay, everything is got solved. Okay, so this is how I can use integer values. I'm going to write the integer value into my file. And what is the method I have to use in order to completely save my information into, that is permanently into my file? The method is myedit.apply, right? Apply. You can use it even commit also. See, you can use commit also, clear also, but I am using apply. Fine. So this is a very easy to write into my file. So my saving of information into file is over. Now I have to read the information, right? So where I have to read the information? Again, go to resume. You write the same thing here also, because I have to create open the shared file information, right? You make it okay. You may have create another name for this. It's completely different, but this name and this name both same, and this mode and this mode should be same. So only thing. Okay, so first, once you open that, I don't need any editor to read the information. Just go on reading the information. First thing is string. That's why I'm using some string variable. I'm going to call it as s1 equals to. So where exactly it is stored? So get something. So read it from sd1, right? The file dot get string and pass what? This key information. What is the key I have given here? Name and pass some default value. Okay, because initially I don't have any value stored when I first open my application. That's why I'm passing some default value. So now second thing is integer. I'm going to call it as a1, since it is an integer integer, or I can use small int value. I'm going to call it as a1, and I'm going to read from my file, that is sd1. This is integer value I'm reading, and pass that key. What is the key? Is age, right? Age. And default value you can put 0, 1, anything. Okay, so once you've done that, now I want to read it in this text field, right? In this text edit text field. So you do one thing, ed1 dot set text. Okay, for string no problem, directly pass the string. That is, what is the variable I have used? s1, right? Okay, ed2, this is an integer, you have to pass into integer, set text. Okay, so it is an integer, right? But I cannot represent integer in my text field. So what I have to do is I have to convert back into string. So how can I do that? String dot value of, okay, pass the value. Now what is that variable? That is a1, right? A1. Okay, everything is fine. So we know how to read the information, we know how to write the information, and we have one button also, submit. Let us run this application. We'll see what output we'll get. We'll wait until it restarts the system. because I have wiped out complete data. That's why it's taking some time to restart. Okay, my app is opening now. So we have information. See, the data I have not entered at all. Still, I am getting some zero value here. How it is possible? Because it is trying to read the information from a file we have created. We have created something called my file name in my local storage, right? So and default value initially for age I have represented 0. That's why I'm still reading 0. See, I'm still reading 0, even though I have not said anything. But the 0 default value is already saved in my storage space. Now you just think you have something called file associated with these two fields. Whatever the information I am entering here, automatically it is saving in your local storage device. Okay. Now what I do is I am going to modify it. Manjunath. Okay. See, Manjunath, DRR. Okay, fine. So we have used text field that to inputting the user information. That's why I have a text keyboard appears here. Now I'll just click on this. Just check. I have only numerical keyboard because I have modified the field as a number. That's why will have only numerical keyboards. So it's just changed each. Okay. Now what I do is I simply submit it. Submit it. It will go to another activity. See, my second activity. Now it means that my previous activity is completely in background. It means it is now already in on pause state. It is come out of that on pause state, right? So now it means that if I go back, it will go again to on restart, on resume, on start, and on resume, right? See, still if you go back, the information is retained. See, information is retained. Still I have something called Manjna here and 35 here. The same case is true, not true till whatever the application we have worked here. See, now information is retained. So what I do is I'll completely destroy this app. Now see, I will go back, means my app is not running, right? So if I open this app, still my information is retained. See, my information, because it is start reading from the file. Okay. So what I do is I will destroy this application. So you know how to destroy this application. You will remove completely from here. Clear all. So I don't have any application running in background also. See, I don't have any application. It means it is already called on destroy. Okay. So now if I open again my application, now my application not at all present in the memory itself. Okay. Now if I open, means it will start from on create now. It will start from on create. Okay. So just open it. Still my information is retained. See, check it out. Check it out. If I do any modification, same information will be appears. Okay. Let's submit it. It is all on pause. Come back. See, same information. If I destroy also, whatever the modification I am doing, the same information is present. Just destroy the application. Okay. So you got it, right? Any doubt in this? Okay, that's all with respect to shared preferences. Now you can utilize this type of preferences in order to save some sort of settings in your mobile phones, some things you want to remember in your mobile phone, simple things. Okay, normally shared preferences applicable in forum like things, or in doing some settings, or storing some time related data, or setting some alarm clock, or some information like setting some display related methods, display related settings, even changing the volume, or doing any modification in your settings normally represents in the normally those values we are going to store in our internal storage based on shared preferences files, not with respect to that. So similar way, Google provide one more opportunity. Instead of writing a programmatical way, writing a code in order to store such type of settings in your shared preferences, we have something called automatic auto settings operations that too available in terms of preferences. Rather than creating this code, we will make the object itself as a preference object rather than the view object. See, so that also easy, we can make it. In order to make that, what we have to do is you just go your app, you create one resource directory, Android resource directory. Okay, Android resource directory, and select here XML and give some name here, that is for example, okay, even XML also, directory XML or XML only you give, just click OK, and automatically the XML directory is created. Click XML, go to new, you have some XML resource file, right? Give it as a preferences. Okay, give it as a preferences, just click OK. Now the separate XML screen is selected. Now whatever the things you want to make that settings should be on or off, or retain the information, you can do it even in another way also, that is called app settings way. Okay, so the previous one is through programmatical way, this is through app setting ways. The Android provides these opportunities also. What you have to do is you just drop it here and do some modifications. You have a key and you have a title. You can set it something like switch settings on or off, something like that. Okay, you can make it like this, switch settings on or off. So we have always come with respect to switching. If you switch setting on, it will retain your data. If you switch setting off, it won't retain your data. And you have a key and value here. You can set the summary of the information also, what it is going to do. For example, this feature enables preferences save on save. Okay, preferences save, something like that. And these are all the not needed information. If you want, this is always appears in your mobile phone in the top app application bar. Okay, so whenever you want to switch on this, you have to do little modification to this code so that it avoids adding up this particular code in order to save the information. So both way you can do it. Okay, the best way is if you want to create your own app and you want to store information, don't do that app setting way, you do it like this. Do it like this. If you have more number of settings, like if you open your system settings and you want to set some notification on, notification off, or if you want to set this, the volume should be like this and ringtone should be always this, the vibration should be on or off, whatever such type of things your mobile need to be remembered or your app need to be remembered, better you put it all those options here rather than in a program. Or if you want to store some information, then you create a shared preferences like this and work like this. Okay, so all of you understood today's class? Any doubt in this? Any doubt in this? Guys, answer me. No doubts or doubts? Anything? If you have doubts. Okay, then that's all with your class with this shade preference. Now we have completed 23 questions, okay, in your assignments. So now start. I will create one more assignment folder. You better upload the assignment there. And so anyhow, next week you have an internals, right? So you'll have a 5 questions. Answer well, get good marks, because in the first internals, no, fewer people have not got good marks. If you write, I will, of course, I will give the marks. Okay, write the data or needed. Okay, even in your examination also, you have to write the explanation a lot. Then only you will get a good marks. And diagram should be perfect when you are writing. And do remember that for everything you have to write down what class you are using, what methods are you are using, and what are the parameters you are passing to that methods. Why I am explaining specifically those things? Because that is what you have to write in your examination. You don't, nobody will ask you to create a application, right? They will ask you how you can create a shade file. What are the what are the methods you are going to use in order to create a shade files? So for that you have a shade file. For that you have to create object, and you have to use a method called get shade file, and also you have to pass 2 parameters. One is file name and another one is mode private, and you have to explain what are the modes are available. And in order to write the information, you have to create one editor. And how to create the editor? It should be shade preferences dot editor, and you have to give name to that. And how you can initiate that editor? For that, whatever the shade file you have created recently, that dot edit method you have to call. Once you have edit method, you go on call different APIs like put in, put string, put boolean, in order to put the values. In always in all this function, you have to pass what? 2 parameters. One is key, another one is value. Okay. Once you've done that, permanently save the information, you have to call one more method called dot apply. See, this is how you have to write the examination. So then only you will get good marks. Got it? Okay. Thank you all then. All the best for your internals.
Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you. That's all with your